Gotta have that scrumpy. Greetings, Earthlings. February has just concluded, and so of course it is time for me to talk about the movies I saw this month. Now, I only saw 5 last month. This month I saw 8, and so I don't want to make the video super duper long, so I'm going to try to keep them brief. For more mainstream movies, I'm not really going to go into the plot. I'm just going to immediately go into what I thought of them. And yeah, let's get started with Velvet Buzzsaw. Now, this is the second collaboration between Jake Gyllenhaal and director Dan Gilroy. The first one was Nightcrawler, which came out in 2014, I think, and I really liked that movie, so I was very excited for this one. And it's kind of like a horror comedy. I think it's billed as a comedy, but there aren't really that many comedic elements, or at least not many parts that I found very funny. It's kind of like a horror thriller sort of mix. Basically, it's about Jake Gyllenhaal, who is this kind of obsessive, sort of neurotic art critic. He's very pretentious, and the world of art critics is one that's kind of famously a bit pretentious. So a lot of characters in the movie are kind of like that, and I think the film itself is sort of an indictment on that world. But it also, it completely immerses itself in that world. And for someone like me who isn't really interested in the world of like art critiquing, which is interesting because I'm kind of critiquing art right now by talking about these movies, but I was apprehensive and excited because, again, Dan Gilroy and Jake Gyllenhaal did Nightcrawler, and I really liked that. So I was like, okay, cool. Let's see what they do with this concept of a sort of a character comes across like a series of paintings that are kind of haunted-ish, and I thought that concept sounded kind of interesting. It could be fun, but I didn't really like this movie very much. I liked it a bit. There are some neat parts, especially near the end when shit really starts hitting the fan. I'm not going to spoil anything, but there are a couple moments that I'll probably remember. A couple kind of creepy scenes. Jake Gyllenhaal is a great actor, as I'm sure a lot of you know. I've recently began what I'm calling my cinematic journey. Where I've started watching like all these movies that I've been wanting to watch forever and ever, and for some reason I just haven't watched them. And and in that quest, I have discovered how great Jake Gyllenhaal is. He's such a good actor, and every time he's in a movie, I'm just like, yo, I gotta see this. And he's fine in this movie, but he's not really given much material to work with. Like, I can't really. Most movies that he's in fact, I think every movie that I've seen him in, they have moments that I can remember where I was like, oh man, Jake Gyllenhaal was so good in that moment. Or he's just great throughout the whole thing. And here, he's good, like he always is, but he doesn't really have much to do. The script isn't very strong. Something I kind of think is weird in movies is when they have a gay character sort of go straight. There's a gay man in this who starts hooking up with a woman, and I don't know, it's like, can't you just keep him gay? Like, this is one of the problems I had with the Kids Are All Right. It's because the lesbian was, she started having an affair with a man, and I don't know. Maybe it's nothing, but it just feels kind of weird to me. Like, I don't know. Like, they could just be gay, right? Like, they could just be gay. I mean, I understand people have layers, and sexuality is a spectrum. Not everybody is 100% straight or 100% gay or whatever. But I don't know. In a world where gay characters don't have that much representation in film. I mean, they do have representation, but not that much, obviously, in the grand scheme. It just feels like, I don't know, let's just let them be gay, okay? Yeah. And yeah, that's really all I have to say about this movie, honestly. I've heard some people say they really liked it, and, that's fine. I'll give it a 5.5. It had a couple alright moments, but overall it was just pretty underwhelming. And I hope that Dan Gilroy's next project is better than this. I haven't seen his other film, Roman J. Israel Esquire, but I've heard good things, and I want to check it out. So yeah. Fyre Fraud. This was the documentary on the Fyre Festival that Hulu made and released 1 week right before Netflix released theirs. So, immediately that caught everybody's attention. And all the stuff that was good about the Netflix one is also good about this one. It's an interesting story. It's crazy how all this crazy shit happened. If you don't know about it, just look it up or just watch my January video. This one does some things differently. This one actually has interviews with the guy, Billy, the guy who organized the whole Fyre Festival. So that's definitely a plus in this movie's favor. But I feel like the way it's told is slightly less interesting than the Netflix one. Maybe it's because I saw the Netflix one before this one. If I'd seen this one first, I might have preferred it. But as of now, I just kind of prefer the Netflix one a little more. This kind of, the build-up isn't as strong, I think. In the Netflix documentary, there's real serious anticipation for like the climax and eventually breaking point of this event. Here they do that well too, but it's not as strong. Again, probably because I saw it already. This one also, it doesn't go as far into what a complete like Lord of the Flies situation the first night of the festival was, which was one of the craziest things to see and hear about. So the fact that they left that out, I think, was to its detriment. This movie also made me feel really bad for Billy's girlfriend, because this guy is such a dick. How can a smart person, which he clearly is, he's clearly very intelligent and has been from a young age. That's what this one goes into more than the Netflix one. It was how ever since he was a little kid, Billy, he would like make bargaining deals with his classmates and like let them use his crayons for money, or I don't remember what it was, but like some shit that like Stewie Griffin would be doing. And he's obviously got a lot going on up here. It's just not much going on here, He's a con artist. He is a swindler. Am I using that word correctly? I don't know. I'm just gonna say it. He's a swindler. Yeah, I don't care if I'm using it correctly. YOLO. Motherfucker. He's a dick. Like, he's just a dick. And I just felt so bad for his girlfriend in this. Because, like it's like she doesn't... I mean, obviously, you don't know what it's like when two people are in private. But the way this made it look, it's like she's just completely blind to all this horrible shit. And I feel bad for her, but at the same time, if she wants to be with him, then whatever. Let him be happy. But, yeah, he really, really sucks. So yeah, like I said, I kind of prefer the Netflix one a little bit more, but this was interesting too. I'll give it a 7.5. I said for the January review that I would check this out and review it for the February video, and I did it, so yay for me! How to Train Your Dragon, The Hidden World. I really, really love the first two How to Train Your Dragon movies. Look, I got a Toothless shirt, That's how much I love these movies. I think the first two movies are some of the best animated films ever made, I think. I mean, they're not like complete masterpieces. They obviously have flaws, but oh man, the stuff that's good about them is just so fucking good, and I am so disappointed in how the third one turned out. It's not terrible. There's good stuff in it. The animation is fan-fucking-tastic, and that's not really a that's not really a criticism that I like to throw out with these big budget animated movies, because of course the animation is going to be fantastic. Like even the Emoji Movie had like okay animation, but here it's really good. There's so much detail in the textures, and the hair. Looks so beautiful, and the scales of all the dragons, and when you see the hidden world, it looks amazing. It's so beautiful. I could have just spent the whole movie in that area. And that's one of the problems I have with this movie, because for a film called The Hidden World, we literally only see the hidden world for one scene. One. The fucking movie is named after the thing, and we see it for one scene. Fuck! The side characters in the other two movies, Hiccup's little gang of buddies, I found them entertaining in those movies. They're fun, comic relief characters who are, make up a good team and good support for Hiccup, and, they have a good arc in the first movie, where they start off, not liking him, and then obviously that changes, blah, 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 blah. But in this movie, I just found every joke that came from them was just not funny. Not many of the jokes in this movie worked for me very well. I don't know. This movie, I feel like, tried to make you laugh a lot more than the first two, and it just didn't really work for me. I can only think of a couple jokes that really had me laugh beyond just like a light. So, that's unfortunate for a movie that's really trying to be funny. The villain is just a Diet Pepsi version of the second movie's villain, who isn't that great of a villain. He's still intimidating, and, again, he's animated well. I noticed, for whatever reason, whenever the villain in this movie would talk, I felt like his mouth was animated really well. That's kind of a weird detail, but it's just something I noticed. There's almost no depth to him. There's one scene where he mentions how when he was a kid and he ran into a Night Fury, he killed it. And I was like, okay, that's kind of interesting, because that could draw a similarity between him and Hiccup. Hiccup encountered Toothless, the Night Fury, and he almost killed it, but, he eventually let him go. And I was like, okay, that could actually draw some interesting parallels between the two characters and kind of show, what big a difference one single decision can make, and how it can split your path entirely, whether you choose to do one thing or the other. And I thought that was kind of interesting, but they don't explore that at all. Like, they didn't even try to explore that, so I'm probably reading, a bit deep into it, but that's where I hoped that would go, and it just didn't lead anywhere. It was just one line. They also kind of retcon Hiccup's dad's character. In the first movie, Hiccup's father, whose name is Stoic, is talking about how, dragons are a huge menace and they all gotta die. He wants to kill them all. But then you have scenes in this movie that are flashbacks to Hiccup's childhood before the first movie took place, where his dad is talking about how he just wants to find the hidden world so humans and dragons can live in peace. And that's just not what his character was like at that time. So that was annoying. Again, it's not like a train wreck of a film. There's good stuff in it. Honestly, there's more good stuff than bad stuff. It's just I'm a sucker for negativity bias. I liked most of how it concluded. It didn't really get me crying like it did for a lot of people, and I am an easy crier. I cry at the end of Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, for crying out loud. Crying out loud, haha. But I did feel the emotion of the moment. It just didn't, it didn't get me there, I guess. But I'm a fan of generally how the film ended, and I like how they wrapped it up. Like, this is the last one, or at least until they decide to do something else. Which I hope they don't do. If they're going to do anything more with this series, I hope they just stick to TV shows like they've been doing, which I haven't seen any of them, but I hear they're good, so, I wouldn't have a problem with them doing that, but I hope they don't do another one of these films, because they really have, created, a complete storyline with, a complete arc. What else is there? Oh yeah, Toothless's sexy girlfriend, who doesn't even get a name in this movie, by the way. She's just the Light Fury. All the other dragons, that are owned by the side characters, they all have their own names, but Toothless's booty call, she doesn't get a name. I don't... Why? Why couldn't you just give her a name? Just give her a name. And we just have to call her the Light Fury, and, whatever. She was cute. The animation on her, again, is fantastic. I liked her back and forth with Toothless. The best scene in the film, in my opinion, was when Toothless was, he was trying to get some, and he's doing a bit of a mating dance, and it's just between the two of them, and you kind of have Hiccup on the sidelines, like kind of signaling Toothless what to do. And it's great because it's no dialogue, obviously, it's just two dragons, and all the funny stuff about that scene, it's all visual. There's no dumb jokes like the rest of the movie, and the stuff Toothless is doing is cute, and you see her reactions like, this guy, and it's funny. I got some genuine laughs out of that scene, but fortunately the rest of the movie couldn't be that funny. Ugh. Oh man, I said I was going to be brief when talking about all these movies, but I have a lot to say. What can I say, man? I'm just, my opinions, they're just so important, man. You gotta hear them. So yeah, I'll give it a 6.5. Like I said, it's really not terrible, and I really didn't hate it. It's just, man, it's just disappointing. High Flying Bird is the second film to be directed by Steven Soderbergh and completely shot on an iPhone. Now, what kind of annoys me about this is if I tried to make a movie on an iPhone instead of this camera that I'm shooting this with, people would probably call me lazy, and I don't think I would get away with it as much as this, like, super high-profile director. So, that's kind of annoying how he's, like, taking this really cheap, kind of shitty approach to it, and it's kind of being passed off as some big auteur thing. But that being said, it does kind of give the film a unique look, and I haven't seen the other film he shot on an iPhone, Unsane, but that movie, from what I understand, it took place in like a mental hospital or something like that, and so I feel like in that situation, it kind of makes sense to shoot it on an iPhone, because it kind of gives the whole thing like a more claustrophobic feel. This film is about a kid who is trying to join the NBA. And so there didn't really seem like there was a reason to shoot it on iPhone. With Unsane, I feel like there kind of was a reason. But with this one, it just seemed like he was like, I want to do this again. And, he can do whatever he wants, but it just kind of detracted from the overall quality of the film. Because like I said, it does have a unique look, but I think if he just shot it on a normal camera, it would look better. And so in the end, I think that kind of took away from the film experience, but I mean, probably saved him a lot of money, so there you go. And I might be a little more forgiving about the iPhone thing if this movie was a little better. It's, it's not bad. It's just that, like Velvet Buzzsaw, this doesn't really take place in a world that I'm very interested in. The world of, like, sports politics. I'm not that interested in politics, and I'm super not interested in sports. So combining the two, I was just like, oh man, I hope this movie isn't super boring. And it wasn't super boring, but there were a lot of moments, and this might be on me and not the film, but there were a lot of moments where I was just like, yo, I have no idea what these people are talking about. Like, the term lockout is used many times in the film, and not once do they explain what it is. I had to, like, pause the movie and look it up. So, maybe I'm an idiot, but the whole film is about this lockout. Basically what it is like, fuck. I don't even remember. That's how little of an interest I have in sports politics, is that I barely remember what the whole situation of this movie was. No, I think, okay, so a lockout in terms of sports, or at least in terms of basketball, is when the higher ups, they don't, shit, I don't know. I'm a terrible film critic. So yeah, the movie's not awful, but I just didn't completely know what it was about, so I can't say I, like, loved it. But even with the, like, kind of cheap-looking iPhone aesthetic, the film is shot very well. The main character is played by Andre Holland, who was in Moonlight, and he was good in Moonlight. Great film. Oh my god, if you haven't seen Moonlight, yo, See that movie, man. And his charm basically is what carries the whole film for me. He was most of the reason that I was interested in anything that was going on. The way the film concludes, I was kind of like, did we even learn anything? Like, I didn't really understand what was gained. And I don't know. The whole thing kind of just felt like, it just kind of felt inconsequential. And I think that's partially my fault because I just don't know shit about sports. So I don't know how I expected to be like crazy interested in this movie. But on the other hand, you can make a story about anything interesting. You can make a story about a Scrumpy Jack can interesting, you know? You can make a story about my farts interesting, and I'd say my farts are already quite interesting. You know, they have many distinct aromas and many interesting sounds, and they really do fill a room. So I think this movie could have benefited by kind of playing a bit more to the I have no idea what any of this means crowd and kind of just explaining a little bit more of what it was even talking about. You know, kind of like what The Big Short did. You know, that movie was about the stock market. Another thing I have zero interest in. And the film kind of dumbed it down for the audience by like cutting away to celebrities like explaining what was going on in the film. And I still had no idea what was going on, but okay, so maybe that wasn't a great example to use. But a film that is not necessarily about a thing that you're interested in can still be interesting. That's all I'm saying. And this film was alright. I'll give it a 6.5. An Affair to Die For. What the hell is this movie, Dyami? Well, I will tell you after I take another drink. So this is a thriller about a woman who is cheating on her husband with this dude, and they go to a hotel to, you know, have an affair, and he's cheating on his wife. And then the woman's husband finds out because he worked for the CIA previously or something like that. So he knows how to, like, find shit out, you know. So he tracks him down, and he basically just fucks with him. And this movie's not good, really, at all. It's got some decent stuff. The woman's husband was kind of, you know, he wasn't a terrible villain. I kind of like the ways he would manipulate them both. Like, he would call the man and be like, I know you're fucking my wife. Do not let her leave the hotel room or I'll kill you, or whatever he says. And then he'll like call his wife and be like, you gotta leave the hotel room right now. Like, this guy's a murderer or whatever. And so that was kind of an interesting situation. But other than that, the film is really dumb. There are a couple twists, one of which I saw coming from like a mile away, but they weren't like terrible twists. They were just like, okay, you know, whatever. The first twist I thought was kind of interesting, you know, when you find out that, you know, things aren't necessarily the way that we, the audience, are thinking they are to be. But, you know, other than a couple moments, this film is so stupid, man. These characters, especially the lady, they're so dumb. There's so many times in this movie where I was just like, oh, you dumb bitch. I don't want to even talk about it very much because it was just bad. But if you want to see a movie that's bad but kind of entertaining and not like ball-shavingly boring, I would say you check this out. I watched it at like 3 a.m. So, you know, that's kind of where this movie, that's kind of where it lives. So, you know, watch it if you want like a decent laugh at a dumb movie. 3.5 for Affair to Die For. Paddington. You know, yet another disappointing addition to a series. You know, the first 2 Paddington films were really, really good. This one didn't have any CGI bears in it, and it didn't seem to take place in England. It seemed to be about a guy dying of cancer, which was really depressing for a Paddington movie. that was weird. Okay, in all seriousness, this movie is called Paddleton, and like I just said, it's about a guy dying of cancer, and him and his neighbor, who is also his best friend, just trying to deal with it. And, you know, in the January review, I said that Netflix doesn't really make very good movies, and they must have heard me, because, man, this film was great. This is definitely my favorite movie of 2019 so far, and I don't even have much to say about it. It's so simple. It's just these two guys dealing with this horrible thing, and it's so realistic, and I think that's because, from what I heard at least, a lot of it wasn't scripted. I think a vast majority of the film, if not all the film, was improvised, which, you know, can sometimes not work with films like Thor Ragnarok, you know, which is still funny. I think it didn't completely work in that case. It works really well here, though. Mark Duplass and Ray Romano are really, really good. Mark Duplass's character, the cancer guy, he's not really that defined of a character. He's sort of just like a regular dude. Ray Romano's character is the much more interesting one. He's the one whose struggles we really, really get to feel throughout this movie, as he, you know, he's a very awkward dude who you can tell probably doesn't have very many friends. So the fact that, you know, his best friend is dying of this disease is just, man, it's watching him try to deal with it. It's heartbreaking, because he's kind of a dick. And he's a bit socially inept. Like, he doesn't like it when his friend, like, starts befriending other people, and he's just kind of an asshole to those people. And so you're like, wow, dude, like, chill out. But at the same time, you kind of feel him, because he's just sort of this, like, awkward dude, and he doesn't know how to deal with situations like this. And, you know, even in the film, he's like, you can't expect me to be normal about all this. Like, this is crazy. And so you really feel it. And there's not very much to talk about. It's just a really simple film that you should watch. And, oof, the ending, oh man, fuck. It is heartbreaking. And like I said earlier, I'm a very easy cry in movies. And yeah, this film had me going. And even later on, thinking back to the film, I cried even harder. So when a film can do that, that's good. That's really good. Yeah, this was great. 8.5. I liked it a lot. Good job, Paddleton. Good job, Netflix. And finally, Alita Battle Angel. Now, I literally just got back from seeing this. So, even though I'm filming this on March 1st, well, it's March 2nd now. It's after midnight. So technically, this should go in my March video, but, you know, I just saw it, so why not talk about it right now while it's fresh in my mind. This movie was interesting. I got very serious Ready Player One vibes from it, which wasn't a movie I loved, but I think if you like that movie, you'll like this one too. I'm not familiar at all with the manga it's based on, but you can definitely tell that this is based on something from Japan. It's got a very anime-y aesthetic. My favorite thing about this film was Alita herself. Not that she was a very deep character, but I liked the way she looked. A lot of people had issues with, like, the big, the big anime CGI eyes. They're a bit jarring, but they're not, like, horribly distracting. She's pretty cute, actually. I found myself kind of like, oh man, Alita, oof. She's kind of, she did something to me. I can't explain it, and I don't want to explain it. Yeah, it's kind of disgusting that this is a film about a powerful, badass female hero, and I'm just talking about how sexy she was, but, I mean, there's not much else for me to latch onto. She's not that strong a character, like I said, so, I mean, you know, what else am I supposed to say? The actress who plays her is fine, mostly. There are emotional moments where she goes, no! And I was like, yeah, it didn't really work. The CGI is not as, like, terrible as I was kind of expecting it to be. It's not great either. It's, you know, it's decent. It's, like I said, Ready Player One level. This film really is a Ready Player One level. Throughout pretty much the majority of the movie, that's the vibe I was getting. It basically is a combination of anime aesthetic and Ready Player One. So if that sounds like a good time to you, go check it out. But for me, it was pretty lacking in a lot of parts. The story's okay, but the script just isn't very strong, and a lot of moments that you're supposed to take seriously, I just found myself kind of snickering, which is not good. There were especially some very sad moments near the end that I was just kind of like, this is kind of funny, and I shouldn't be laughing at this. I felt bad because they clearly were trying to make it like this emotional thing, and man, it just, man, people, it wasn't just me, people in the audience in the theater were also kind of snickering a little bit, so I was like, okay, it's not just me, I'm not just being a dick. Maybe I am being a dick, but whatever. Yeah, it's definitely the script. The script is the biggest problem here. It needed to be a lot stronger. But other than that, I don't know, I just can't really hate on movies like this, because as dumb as they are, and as obviously, like, blockbusters, give us your money, they are, I just, like, there's nothing offensive about it, it's just kind of dumb, and I don't know, I'm kind of dumb, so I'm just like, hey, I kind of relate to this. I was excited to see another movie with Christoph Waltz in it. That guy is great. I don't see him enough in movies. He needs to be in more stuff. He's fantastic. But maybe if he was in more things, we would get spoiled of him. So, maybe it's good that he only pops up, like, sort of every couple of years or so, as far as I'm aware. I don't know, maybe he's in, like, every movie, but I just don't know. And and Edward Norton is in this movie, but he only really shows up in literally, like, the last minute of the movie, and I was just like, what? He was here the whole time? So that was kind of funny, and it kind of distracted me from the, like, epicness of the film's ending, and it kind of sets it up for a sequel, but it also is sort of done in a way where if there wasn't a sequel, which there might not be, in fact, I think critically this movie's not doing super well, so there's a good chance there won't be a sequel, but I mean, we live in a world where there's sequels of everything, so who knows. But if there wasn't a sequel to this, I could still see this standing alone as its own thing, it's fine. The ending kind of is like a note of, like, inspiration and, like, hope for the future, and it's gonna be awesome, and cool things are gonna happen in Alita, yeah! But we don't necessarily need to see any of that stuff. We just, know. Alita, Battle Angel, is, 6 out of 10. It was fine. It was fine. Like I said, Christoph Waltz, great actor. Mahershala Ali is also good in this. Really good actor. But they're just not given very much to do, like Jake Gyllenhaal in Velvet Buzzsaw. Full circle, motherfucker! And, yeah, those are the films in 2019 that I saw in February. So, tune in next time for more films and more Scrumpy, and I will see you later.